This is a forward tilt out of an initial dash. And this is an extended dash canceled forward tilt. This is not a pivot canceled tilt, that's completely different than this, and there are tons of videos and resources about that already. But this EDC tech is something that I almost never see talked about, and is so easy to perform you'll be able to implement it into your play almost immediately. You might already be doing them without even realizing it. Anyway, let's get into it. Now, I don't know who first discovered this tech, but I was introduced to it back in 2019 when I stumbled across this video by Combro that only had 100 or so views at the time. I don't want to rag on the video, but it was pretty hard to follow and there were large amounts of text that appeared for only a few seconds at a time, but there is a lot of good information in it, and Combro has put a ton of work into labbing and researching this topic. But hopefully this video is easier for you to follow. The EDC can be performed with the default layout, but you will probably want your C-stick set to tilt attack because it'll make it easier to perform for tilts, and they're the most practical application for most characters. But if you want to do EDCs with smash attacks or even specials, you can change your C-stick to that to make them easier. However, you cannot perform up smashes, up specials, or side specials with this no matter what your controller layout is. Performing this is very simple. Dash in one direction, and within about 10 frames, input the tilt you want to do and keep holding the analog stick in that direction. This hold is very important and it's the reason you get the slight boost. And if you let go too early, you won't get as long of a slide. So you may accidentally do this tech without even realizing it. So basically, just input the tilt as quickly as you can after the dash. If you input it the same frame, you'll just do the tilt. Now this will work for up tilt and down tilt, but one of the biggest applications is the forward tilt, and if you do it normally, you'll just get a dash attack. For the forward tilt, you actually have to input it in the opposite direction you want it to go. I'm assuming this works because the held analog stick overrides the direction of the tilt. So really, this tech is just holding the analog stick during the startup of your move to slide a little bit during it. And this only works during the initial dash. If you're in the run animation, I would suggest doing a pivot canceled tilt, which is basically the opposite of this, where you flick the analog stick in the opposite direction you're going and do the tilt normally. This tech is interesting because it's basically a direct upgrade from a move after a dash, which already can be a good option sometimes. The move comes out the same exact frame, and more times than not, you will want that boost for extra range on your move, and it can even help with combos since you're closer to your opponent. Now, I've seen Rob players do this to combo their down tilts into each other at high percents, because that little extra boost makes you able to combo it better. I've also seen the Yoshi and Kirby Discords talking about it for starting and extending combos, but outside of those, I've seen very few mention of this tech. You can even combine it with a specific up tilt turnaround angle on the C-stick to extend or start some combos for characters that prefer the back hit of up tilt. But there are other applications like killing. For example, if you have a tilt that can kill, it can be a good burst option depending on how far you slide with it. Combro made a full spreadsheet of all the grounded moves in the game and how far each character slides, so I'll be linking that in the description below. Now, what if you have your C-stick set to tilts, but you want to do these for smash attacks? Or vice versa? Well, it's a little bit harder. You do the initial dash, but bring it back to the center, and you press the input that you want, and then move the analog stick back to the direction you initially did. That might sound confusing, but just basically dash, do the input, and then dash. This can allow you to do EDC jabs, but the timing is a bit stricter. You have to be as quick as possible with inputting the direction, and the earlier you do it, the more slide you'll get. The same goes for specials, but only for neutral B and down B. Also, forward smashes can only be done with this method. So check it out for your character and see if there's any interesting ones you can take advantage of. A character like Samus gets much less use of this compared to a character like Greninja. Interestingly, Fox slides a ton with his neutral B, and so does Kirby with Fox's power. This is mostly useless, but kinda neat. Actually, now that I think about it, Kirby gliding, which I talked about in February 2019, is literally just an extended dash cancel. Now, I didn't discover that tech, but it's kind of interesting that Kirby mains have been doing this since Smash 4. Now, you might be thinking at this point, wow, why wouldn't I always use this? It seems like a direct upgrade. Now, outside of what I talked about, there's a few more problems. First, if your opponent shields a move, you'll often be in a worse spot since you're closer to your opponent and they will have a much easier time punishing you than if you were spaced farther away. But another issue is when you normally do a tilt out of an initial dash, you perform the tilt about 11 frames later without too much worry. You can decide during the dash whether or not it's a good idea to perform the tilt. And if, for example, you see your opponent dashing back or shielding or whatever the situation, you can make a last-second decision to commit to a different option like shield or grab. With the EDC, you're pretty much locked into the option as early as frame 2, and you're committing to something that might not be a good option in a few frames. Now, you can release a C-stick before the dash ends, which actually leads to dash walking, a different tech, or you can shield, but at least for me, it doesn't seem practical to be able to make that decision in that tiny time frame. So it almost feels like you're betting on where your opponent will be in the future rather than hitting them where they are. Which, I mean, is kind of Smash Bros. In general, but even more so than normal. The theory behind this might not be perfect, but at least that's how it feels to me. So try this out with your main and see what you can find. It probably won't unlock any crazy new combos, but it might let combos work at higher percents than before, since you can pretty much reach your moves farther than you thought they could go. This isn't a brand new tech or anything, but I just saw so few resources or information on this tech and got a request to make a video about it, so here we are. Subscribe for more videos like these. Thank you so much, all my supporters on Patreon, and thank you for watching. Peace.